Hey everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. Happy hump day to you. Happy hump day to you. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday. Yes, we are back today with another inspiration for you. And you know, for those that are new, welcome aboard. My name is Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Okay, what is today? Today we are facing. I know a lot of you are like, what are we doing? What is facing? Okay, so you know when we typically bind, we have the outside edge of binding that shows on the front. Well, I will tell you, I call that lipstick, right? And it can honestly be part of the design, or you can try and match it to the front of your quilt so it blends a little better. But I call it the lipstick because it's adding a little something. It's bordering the entire quilt. Okay, it's another really skinny border, right? Well, on facing, we don't see that border. We don't see the binding. It's just the quilt. So you might ask, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to face? Well, there's actually a couple of reasons. If you have, maybe you made an art quilt. Maybe there's a quilt that you made that it just, if you added a binding to it, it would just kind of take away from the artistic value of what you want to present as a quilt or a wall hanging or any such thing. That is just it's very imperative that we don't have that extra piece of lipstick to put on our quilt, right? You don't want that to show. That is one reason. Another reason is maybe it's got some odd edges. They're not straight necessarily. Maybe they've got scallops. Maybe you've got some extra pieces that come off of it that aren't in a straight line. You can face a quilt to do that too, so it gives it a really neat look to it when you do that. And sometimes you just don't want to show. Like, this is my table runner that we made last week, and I just didn't want to add lipstick to the quilt. I wanted it to show for itself. So when I lay it out on the table, this is all you're seeing. And if I put it on the wall, that's all you're seeing. And there's a lot of different methods to face. I'm going to show you this one, and this particular one, like I said, I wanted to be able to use this as a wall hanging, right? So what we do, let me put this down here. What we do is this is the binding on the back side, okay? And we have these pockets that are formed while we do this so that you can hang the quilt on your wall, on your door, using a rod or anything to put inside of those pockets. So yes, I will show you the back. This is what the back actually looks like. Okay, so it's framed, but you don't have to have any particular color coding. You can use anything if you like, because the idea is that you won't be looking at the back, you'll be looking at the front. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to take you with me in how I got this done. We're going to do this together, but what you'll need to get started is I used 4-inch squares. Okay, so I cut 4-inch squares. Now I ended up doing them in blue. I thought it was easier for you to see. Originally I was going to do it the same color. It really doesn't matter, but you'll need 4 of these for each corner. 4-inch squares if you're making the same size I do. And I used 2.5-inch binding strips, and I went ahead and did oh, you can't see that far. I went ahead, and I'll show it to you closer, but I went ahead and did the bias cuts so that they're angled and flat, okay? And I did fold the 2.5 inches in half. So you'll need that. Now, how I got this, I do have a binding calculator out there. I will put that in the notes below, in the description box down below. But you basically measure all the way around your quilt and you add it up. Now, typically when we do normal binding, you add a little extra, right? Here, it's not necessary, okay? You figure out the length all the way around. So you measure each edge, you get that one big number. And then I took it and divided by 40, which is with selvage to selvage, basically. I took that number, divided by 40, and it gave me like 3 point something, 3.3 or something, 3.35, something like that. Well, that meant I needed 4 strips. So you got to bump it up, okay? Because you can't use part of a strip, right? So I cut 4 strips at 2.5 inches, put them together, and folded them over like we do normal binding. So you'll need your binding and you'll need your 4-inch squares. So let's go ahead and get this started and let's walk together facing our beautiful table runner. See you guys in just a sec. Okay, so quilted, trimmed, we're ready. So I did talk about 4-inch squares. Now I will tell you I did a little bit of experimenting or auditioning. I had a 5-inch square, a 3-inch square, and I could have gone 4.5, but I didn't. I just cut a 5 and a 4 and a 3, and I felt like this was just the right size. So it's a 4-inch square, and basically I cut 4 of them and I folded them in half, okay, and pressed them, okay. Now I'm only going to show you on the short end because you're going to do the same thing on each side of your quilt, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you're going to line up with the raw edges, okay? So I've folded it in half. I have the raw edges along here, and we're just going to place them in the corners, okay? Both sides. Now, if you had directional fabric, you'd want to make sure that you've pressed it the way you want it to go. And when you flip it, it's going to show the way that you want it to, okay? So I'm okay either way. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's on the back of the quilt. Nobody's going to see this, okay? So you start with that, and I will tell you, so you've got your topper, your batting, and your backing, and 2 pieces of fabric on top, but I'm going to pin these with a thicker pin to hold them together, okay? And for both sides, I'm just going to pin it just to keep it here while I manipulate everything. Okay, so from there, I have my 2.5-inch strip binding. The raw edges are, I folded it and I've pressed it in half, so it went from 2.5 to 1.25 inches wide, right? And I will tell you, and I have a binding video if you'd like to know more specifically on how to do this. I'm looking for the end here. I have done the diagonal on the bias, press them open so that you get a nice flat line, okay? So knowing that they're 2.5 and understanding how I know a lot of you like more specific instructions, you can eyeball this. However, basically you're going to get to you don't have to be exact about it, but you could do, if you wanted 1.25 inches, you'd want to start, okay? And if you didn't want to use a ruler, you could take the other end of your binding and you would place it like so. You're going to want them to touch eventually. So that would make it so you wouldn't have to measure with a ruler. You could just make sure. Now, if one was like this and it was like so, it's not the end of the world. That's what I'm trying to say, is you don't have to be, exact by any stretch, okay? So I'm gonna, just to keep this under control, I'm going to put a little pin right, or a clip right here just to hold it. I'm going to go to the other side. And again, if you didn't want to measure, or you wanted that nice little corner, you would just go with the other end, lay it down where they are going to meet. I folded this in half because then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to do, it doesn't have to be exactly a straight edge, but a straightish edge, and I'll place it down. Now I'll go ahead and pin it in place, or clip it here. Okay, and you could lightly pin if you like, that's fine, whatever you like. But then you're going to take your next strip. Okay, now remember, the raw side, the raw edges are going out. Okay, all the raw edges are going out. The folds are towards the middle of the quilt. Okay, and you'll do the same thing with this strip. You'll lay it down. Now I would give it a pin or a clip to hold it in place, and I will go along the edge of this side of the quilt till I came to these corners, and I would do the exact same thing. You're going to do this to all 4 sides of your quilt. Okay, if I'm going to use this as a wall hanging, I'm going to hang it up and down. I don't want to hang it long ways. It's just a personal preference, but I got to thinking about it because you can do this with any size quilt. Okay, if you in fact had a longer edge, okay, you might have quilted a, I don't know, 60 by 60 quilt. I got to thinking, you might want a couple of things in the center that will help it, when you hang it, it will keep it from sagging. So I basically just took a 3.5 inch by 4.5. I think I could have even done 4. But I folded that in half and gave it a press. And if in fact I wanted some extra stability on a long edge, I would put these on top also, okay? And clip those down. And if I had 60 inches, I might divide this by 4s and do it at the 4th marks, okay? It was just an idea that came to my head. Like I said, I don't plan on hanging this horizontally, which is really long, right? It's 51 inches, 51 and a half, 51 inches all the way across. So I would definitely put some tabs in there if I was going to plan on hanging it horizontally, but I'm not. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, because I think if we had a really long quilt and you hung it with these pocket sleeves, I think it might sag a little. So that was an option for you. Okay, so you're going to do this to put your 4 triangles in the corners, raw edges facing out. Then you're going to take your strips and you're going to go along and put them on top, raw edges facing out. And then we're going to basically take this to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way down the entire quilt. So I'm going to bring you in and show you it. We don't have to get crazy with it. So I'm going to show you exactly how I'm doing this. So I'll see you guys in just a sec. We're at the sewing machine. I do have my thread ready. I took off the first clip because I'm about to sew, and I did push my pin further in because I don't want to run over it with my walking foot, which brings me to, I do have my walking foot loaded, because we're going at this point when we're on this part, what is that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers of fabric. So this will help immensely. Is it possible without it? Absolutely. But I really enjoy having the feed dogs on the top and the bottom. And I have also my seam guide here, my ideal seam guide. You can find these in the shop. I have this one because I have all these layers of fabric right next to it. It's going to help me keep it straight. I have it set up for a 1/4 inch. plain and simple. So that way I know I'm getting a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my needle, and I'm going to start with a bit of a back stitch. Now I don't think it's necessary, but it's just out of habit, and we're just going to simply sew this together. Whoop, wanted to crinkle up on me, so you just want to make sure everything stays nice and flat. And it is quite long, so I don't want it dragging or pulling in any certain direction. I want to keep everything straight. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead and put my hand over here. Maybe that'll help too. Oh, y'all can't see it. I'm holding on to the fabric to try to keep everything straight. And we are basically just sewing a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this last clip off because it's going to get in the way. And it's kind of pulling. There we go. Keeping everything nice and straight. Just keep checking it because there's so many layers. I don't want any shifting. Okay, now when you get down to the end here, make sure I'm not hitting anything. You're just going to simply sew right off, and you can back stitch. I'll go ahead and back stitch just to be sure everything stays intact. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and cut threads. To get the next one started, we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take that first clip off. I'm going to turn my quilt top to get ready for the next event, the next side. And this one's a little longer, right? But you're simply going to do the exact same thing. Get your thread ready. Get your quilt top underneath. Okay, make sure everything's lined up nice and straight. I am checking that pin. I'm going to go ahead and push that pin forward because I don't want to run over it. If it was closer than being able to do that, I would pull it after I got started, okay? Because you don't want to run over that pin. So you just want to make sure everything is lined up, and actually I'm going to go ahead and pull it because I'm getting a little bit of a wrinkle. Keep this nice and straight. Now you see how my corner, can you see how it's overlapping? It's okay. It will be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my needle. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick back stitch. And I'm simply going to do the exact same thing on all 4 sides. Okay? This is it, guys, for this part. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done off camera, all the rest of the 4 sides, and I'm going to meet you back at the pressing board so that you can see how we're going to take the next step. See you guys in just a sec. Okay, so here she is. Okay, all 1/4 inch stitches are all done. This is what it'll look like. Okay, and now at this point we're going to do some pressing. So I'm going to go ahead and relax those seams a bit. Okay, and I did clean up all the threads on the edge, but we're going to press these strips out from the top. Whoop, of the quilt. You don't want to press the triangles yet. Well, you won't press the triangles. You're just going to press, opening up all the way around your quilt. You want to get this pressed, okay? All the way around, all the strips along the edges. Go ahead and press them away from the top of the quilt. Now, at this point, this is very optional. They call it edge stitching, and I'm going to simply, and I'll take you to the sewing machine so I can demonstrate it better, but I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch from this seam out, away from it, towards the edge of the quilt. Some people like to go right next to it. Some people like to do 1/8 of an inch or down the middle, and some people really like to go, almost 1/4 inch just along the edge of the quilt top, okay? But I'm going to go down the middle with 1/8 of an inch, all right? Now, why would you want to do that? You would want to do that because, number one, they say it looks nicer. Number two, it helps when we go to flip our corners and everything to the back, it'll help this to fold over and make it easier for that to get done. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine after I get all the edges pressed out, and I'll see you in just a sec. Okay, so I have lined up my seam guide so that I kind of keep a straight line. I kind of like to. So it's just guiding me. I've set it up so I'm about 1/8 of an inch in from this seam. And notice I am not starting at the end of the quilt. I'm starting right before this strip, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and lower my presser foot, and I'm going to go ahead and lower my needle. I am going to do a tad bit of a back stitch, and I'm just basically going to just do this 1/8 of an inch from that original seam line, okay? All the way around the quilt, just on the strip sew. Again, I'm getting some drag. Okay. Just simply about that 1/8 of an inch. Away from that seam. When I get down to the end, I'll do a little back stitch again. Okay, getting close. All right, come to the end here. I'm going to do a little bit of a back stitch. And I'm going to go ahead and cut threads. Now I want to make sure to add, remember that our seam back here is in fact out. So you want to make sure that it's not under and you're not stitching on anything. You want to make sure that it is in fact laying nice and flat along here. So when you go to stitch up 1/8 of an inch from the right of this seam, that you're actually stitching on the seam underneath, okay? So I'm going to get this done off camera, and I will see you guys in just a bit. So we've got our little 1/8 of an inch stitch on all the strips, okay? Now at this point, what I will actually do is I will go ahead and snip the bulk off of these corners, not getting too close to the stitch line, okay? And I'll do that on all 4 corners, okay? It won't go. All right, then what I will do, remember the stitch line, you're going to then flip to the back of your quilt, and you're going to pull your binding over, okay, as best as you can. And you really do want to, I'm grabbing the iron here, you really do want to not have the binding on the front, okay? So if you have a little bit of your quilt top showing in the back, that's fine, but you really don't want the binding to be showing on the front, okay? Now this takes a little bit of time, but you are going to go ahead and pull this over and try to get it to stay as flat. It won't go flat, I promise you. Not at this point. It will not. But you want to go ahead and pull it over. Get it all lined up the way you want it. And press, and you want to do this all the way around, okay? Each side. You want to get it as much over as you can. Like I said, it won't lay flat, so don't try to get it to lay flat at this point. But you want that nice crease formed in the beginning of pulling it down. Now, what I will share with you is, once you get that all done, put the iron back down, and you get this side done, we're going to basically push these out. But I'm going to come back at you and we'll do that together, but you are going to take your triangles and you will push these out on all four sides. Once you get everything pressed as best as you can down, you're going to push these down and it'll help keep these more flat, okay? But I'll come back at you and we'll go through that together. Let me get all of this as best as I can pressed and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys in just a sec. Okay, so I have gone around and I have pressed these as best as I can. And they do want to fold over very easily with that press, which is a good thing, right? So the next step that I want to demonstrate for you is you're going to want to then turn out your corners, okay? You're going to flip them inside out, and y'all know me, I love the purple thing. You can find the purple thing in our shop if you're interested, but whatever turning tool that you like to use, now would be the time to do it, okay? And it also helps, you know, if you, like I had those hemostats in one of the videos, the pocket prayer quilt, sometimes it's easier to use those, but you just want to make sure that you don't poke a hole in your fabric, pushing those all out. I'll get both sides here real quick. And I'll show you this side of it. But, so this is the fun part. Getting them all pushed out. And I'm going to have to do this again, but I wanted to demonstrate for you. And you'll understand why here in just a second. So that's good enough for now. And what I do like to do, once I get all of those turned out, I will again give it a nice press to make sure everything lays nice and flat. I don't even know if, yep, it was on. Okay. So what you'll have on the front is your turned facing, okay? Yay, right? How cool is that? Now, I want to tell you, you'll do that all four corners, get them all turned when you're ready for it. Now, here's why I say when you're ready for it. Sorry to say, but at this point, you'll need to hand bind the strip. Okay, now there's less hand binding because we don't hand bind the triangles. Okay, you just want to bind the strip. And those triangles are going to work as a hang if you so desire. Okay, you can hang it up and utilize those as pockets to put a dowel in or a rod, you know, and that way you can hang this quilt. Isn't that awesome? Love this, but it will also act as my table runner if I so desire to put it on my dining room table. Love this, love this. So the reason why I wanted to show you that part was to get it out of the way. However, I will tell you, y'all know me, I like to glue now. Didn't start off, if you've been with me since the beginning, I wasn't a glue girl, but I am now. So what I do is I use Roxanne's glue based, which again, I have in the shop if you're interested. It's a wonderful, wonderful glue. Temporary, it will wash out. It is pH of neutral, so it won't hurt your fabric. All right, doesn't break it down. There's no acid in it. And I take my glue, and I'll throw a picture. I'll throw a picture of the corners for you on when they're flipped and turned and pointed, and what the quilt looks like at that point. And I will throw a picture here of getting this glued down. I'm almost out, but I'm simply going to do just a thin bead. Like I said, I'll throw a picture because I know you can't see this. Oh, there it goes. Okay. But I just put a nice little piece of glue, Roxanne's glue base down. It won't stay like that, which is sad. And then I'll take my iron. I'm going to flip this over, making sure that the binding does not show on the front. Get it where I want to get it. Okay, and I probably would put a little extra glue on the tips because I didn't get to the tip, but the demonstration purposes you'll understand. And I'm just simply going to use the iron to help the glue dry a little faster. And then I can go ahead, yeah, I didn't get this edge very well. I can go ahead and base this. Oh my. I can go ahead and bind it and not have to worry that I'm not getting the front or the strip showing on the front. So it truly is faced. So hand binding, yes. And if you need help with hand binding on the back, I do have a video. I'll put a link up here for that. But all you need to do is hand bind the strip down. Do not hand bind your corners because they're there to help you hang it if you so desire. So isn't that awesome, guys? So, and it will stay just the way you want it as you glued it, and it will help you immensely to get that hand binding done. So I'll tell you what, guys, that is Facing a Quilt. This has been so much fun, and I actually really enjoy this process because it goes by quickly, and it's easy, and it's easier than doing an entire binding like we usually do. So I just want to say thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate you being here. I hope that this was inspiring to you. I hope that you will at some point give facing a try for yourself. And if you do, let me know and share a picture or two of your quilts that you have faced. Would love to see that. And again, today I will be on Facebook Live at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time because I'm here in Virginia. So whatever time that is comparatively, backwards, forwards, 3 p.m. my time, Eastern Daylight Time. I will be there for any live quilting and answers or live Q&A session. And we'll chit chat some more about some facing. But oh gosh, y'all, thank y'all for stopping by. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit that bell to get all the notifications. Next week, I'm going to go through what's going to happen in July a little bit. So I hope that you will find some of that very inspiring also. So I do look forward to seeing you next week. I look forward to seeing you today on Facebook. And I will encourage you to join our newsletter, Be Inspired, and become a cherub on that side of the Halo family. We'd love to have you. Inside there, I may give tips, I may give tricks, I give a little inspiration, and of course, as a Be Inspired subscriber, there are special discounts to our shop online. So come on out and there's a link for the Be Inspired newsletter down below. Go ahead and click there and come on over. I'd love to have you again. So thank you all for stopping by. I absolutely love you. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. See y'all soon. Happy quilting.